In 1931, Hollywood director Roland West had a ship built for his wife, actress Jewel Carmenil. He named the ship Joyita, which in Spanish means Little Jewel. A decade later, Joyita was acquired by the U.S. Navy and taken to Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. The ship was used as a yard patrol boat for Big Island until World War II ended. In 1948, Joyita was bought by the firm of Louis Brothers, and 2 years later was sold to William Tavares. Finally in 1952, a University of Hawaii professor, Dr. Catherine Luomala bought the merchant vessel and chartered it to Captain Thomas H. Dusty Miller. Although Miller was originally from Britain, he was living in Samoa and used the boat for fishing and trading. He had a chief mate, Chuck Simpson. Miller had planned to leave Apia Harbor, in Samoa on October 2, 1955. However, he was forced to delay his departure to the next day, because of an issue with the port engine clutch. He left Samoa on October 3, with only one engine working, and headed to the Tokelau Islands, about a 290-mile journey which was expected to take 48 hours. On board were 16 crew members, 9 passengers, and a variety of cargo. On the way back, Miller was supposed to bring a cargo of copra. On October 5, the day the Joyita was scheduled to arrive, there was no sign of the ship. There had been no distress calls and no storms in the area. The next day, Whakapapa Port reported the ship overdue. Soon after, Sunderlands from the Royal New Zealand Air Force searched over 100 square miles of ocean. However, no sign of the ship, or any of its occupants were found. 5 weeks after the disappearance, on November 10, Gerald Douglas, the captain of the merchant ship Tuvalu, found the Joyita, which was completely empty. When Joyita went found and searched, it was discovered that the merchant vessel was listing heavily, and as a result was partially submerged. Barnacle was growing above the intended waterline, showed it had been like that for a while. The radio was tuned to 2182 kHz, the International Maritime Distress Frequency. Interestingly, there was a break in the cable, meaning the faulty radio could only reach a 2-mile range. Approximately 4 tons of cargo were missing. It was estimated that Joyita had made 243 miles. There was still fuel in the tank, and the ship was 600 miles off its route. A dinghy and 3 carly floats were missing. Moreover, Joyita did not have enough life jackets for the amount of people on board. The cooling pipe had been broken, and as a result Joyita's bilges and lower decks were flooded. However, the vessel was unsinkable, as it had a cork lining in its hull, due to being fit for carrying refrigerated cargo. The only working engine was covered by mattresses, most likely to protect the electrical switchboard from the rising water. Clocks connected to the vessel's generator had all stopped at 10:25. Also, the light and navigation switches were on, signifying the incident took place at night. Joyita's sextant, mechanical chronometer, logbook, and firearms were all missing. On the deck was a doctor's bag with a stethoscope, a scalpel, and 4 lengths of blood-stained bandages. Despite maritime inquiry stating the ship was not in good condition, authorities could not understand what had happened to all 25 people on board. Authorities did, however, blame Miller for allowing a ship with so many defaults, including only one working engine, go to sea. At the time, newspapers such as the Herald and Fiji Times blamed the tragic occurrence on Japan. They claimed that Joyita had run into Japanese fishing boats and witnessed something they shouldn't have. As a result, the Japanese killed them. Meanwhile, others claimed it had been a Soviet submarine who found the Joyita and subsequently killed and disposed of all the passengers and crew. People have also considered the possibility of pirates killing Joyita's occupants and stealing the cargo. However, people soon became suspicious of Miller, who had a large debt. It is possible that he was desperate to reach the Tokelau Islands, to run away from the issue. Most likely, as the ship was slowly flooding, his crew and passengers begged him to turn around. Miller, knowing the ship was unsinkable, refused to do so, initiating a mutiny. Miller might have ended up being injured or even killed. If this did indeed happen, Joyita's occupants, unaware that the ship would not sink despite the flooding, could have left the vessel. Most likely, they didn't just set off to the middle of the Pacific Ocean, but saw a piece of land and wanted to reach it. Unfortunately, the currents and wind could have easily made this difficult, and they may have ended up going in an unwanted direction. Despite the variety and contradicting nature of the many proposed theories, most people agree that Miller would have known better than to leave an unsinkable ship, and so something must have happened to him. Captain S.B. Brown, a friend of Miller's, does not believe Captain Miller would have ever voluntarily left the Joyita. He suspects that Miller and his chief mate Simpson had some sort of dispute, and ended up falling overboard. Apparently, Miller and Simpson were not very friendly to each other. It is also heavily speculated if the cargo went missing while the passengers and crew were still on the ship, or if someone came along after the vessel was alone and took advantage of the free cargo. In 1956, Joyita was bought at an auction by a Fiji Islander, David Simpson. After a few incidents with the ship, Simpson abandoned the boat. Over time, the vessel was stripped for its pieces, and by 1980, Joyita no longer existed. To this day, no one has found any traces of the captain, crew or passengers of the Joyita. Their real fate is still an unsolved mystery.